Hi, this is Priyanka, and I have Mira Ramachandran today with me. And I would like her to introduce herself, and then we will move on to our questions. So, hey, Mira, thanks for being on the podcast with us and help Grad Achiever to go to the next step. So, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, of course. Thank you for having me. My name is Mira. I am a freshman at UC Davis. I am studying global disease biology and I'm on the pre-med track. Um, I graduated from American in 2020, and so I'm happy to be of any help to future high schoolers that are in need of some advice.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Yes, good to have you. I know these hiccups are there, right? On this electronic hiccups. Okay, so yeah, so let's get started. So, how did you decide on your high school journey? Like, how did you think that you would have it, or you should plan it?
Um, well, I am the older child of my family, so we didn't really have any idea going in what to really expect or what were the right or wrong things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of just, as far as it came to picking classes and such, I kind of just looked at what I was interested in. And I also talked to a few family friends who were older than me on which teachers I would like or how to do well in certain classes. So I definitely think an important part of starting your high school journey is kind of figuring out what you enjoy doing, but also talking to people to kind of help guide you on the right path.
Okay, great. Um, so, as we know, many students have big plans and they lose focus as they are in their high school, going to university. How did you manage to stay focused and, follow that whatever plan, I mean, you're going with the flow has been laid out is working?
I think the main way I stayed focused is I don't think that, you know, intrinsic motivation is something that can be taught. I think that you do have to have some sort of, you have to know what you want and you kind of have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think that I just kind of kept reminding myself of what I was working for. And that wasn't necessarily like getting into a good college or anything like that. It was more just like that I wanted to do something really good with my life. And I wanted to be proud of myself when I graduated, whether that meant getting really good grades or just participating in a lot of activities and having a good time. I think that I just really wanted to make sure that I was going to be proud of myself and happy with everything I did and have no regrets. So I think that was really what made me stay focused and motivated to kind of keep doing my best.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you had like a short-term goals where you were looking at it and you were just doing your thing. And then as you move on, you have new goals and you just stay focused and then just continue, right? So rather than,
Right. And yeah, you're right.
okay, great. So let's now take a step back and let's go each year. So and let me see how things progress for you or how things change for you when you move from freshman, sophomore all the way to senior. So, how did you like coming out of middle school? How did you approach your sophomore year?
Coming out of middle school, how did I approach my freshman or sophomore? Like, I think I'm misunderstanding maybe.
So, I am guessing your first year is your freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, your freshman year. Yes.
Okay. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that I had an approach. to my freshman year, I kind of think that it's new for everyone.
Okay,
There and I think one mistake that maybe I made was talking to too many people and getting too much input and kind of not really knowing who to whose advice to go with. And so I kind of just did what I wanted to be very honest. Like I took the classes that I wanted to, that I knew that I would do well in. I challenged myself and I kind of just made that my mindset moving forward, that I was just going to make sure that I was challenging myself um, in each year. And so that's kind of how I approached my first year of high school. I knew that it was going to be a challenge. So I kind of decided to do things I liked. Um, and I pretty much had to adjust after that. It's not really something that you can plan because you have no experience with it.
okay, okay, great. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the question I always see people struggling is how to pick a subject in ninth grade. It's like so challenging because you have so set curriculum until middle school. You do not have that many choices, right? But once you
Mm-hmm.
come to your ninth grade or freshman year, you are like given so many choices. You can go to any route, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing that's the first step of for your career. It can either make it or it can either break it, right? That kind of lay the foundation of your high school. And how did you do that? I mean, I know you did mention that you spoke to a lot of people and you felt that there were too many inputs involved, but end of the day, what was your method of selecting the subjects?
Um, well, I always kind of had taken honors classes and things prior to high school. So I decided that I kind of wanted to continue down that path. And I was always someone that enjoyed school.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it was easy or anything because it definitely was not, but I always really liked school. And so I wanted to continue down that same path. So I took the same honors classes, kind of continuing that trend from middle school. And then when it came to kind of choosing, um, I believe like, you had to choose a language and stuff like that. I don't quite remember, but I kind of just figured like since we're in California that I would just take Spanish. I figured that would make the most sense for me.
Okay,
Um, and then I think pretty much if you have any more flexibility in your schedule to just pick something that you enjoy doing, because it is already a difficult transition and there's so much that you don't know and so much that you have to adjust to and figure out along the way, that you don't want to give yourself too difficult of a course schedule to where you're not only struggling in your classes but you're also struggling with the adjustment. So I think that in your first year, that is those are some important things to keep in mind.
okay, great. And as you moved on to 10th, 11th, and 12th, did your choices, approach to the choices changed? Or did you just go with, I mean, with the flow and whatever you enjoyed the most, you just followed that path?
I definitely just did what I enjoyed. For example, in my sophomore year of high school or in sophomore year, you have the option of taking AP European history. And I was always someone who liked history. So I decided to take that class for that reason. I didn't take it because I wanted an AP class. And I think that approaching it with that mentality definitely helped because it takes some of the stress off. And I think that if you're someone who, for example, like really does not enjoy history, I don't think it's worth taking a class just for the GPA boost or that it may look good on your college applications, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be miserable taking a class that
Mhm.
you just do not enjoy. But, you know, kind of with my other classes, I knew, you do have to take math and science. And so that was kind of really not up to me. But I think sophomore year, you don't have as much flexibility as, moving on to your junior year, where you kind of really have to start thinking about APs and things like that. And even there, I only did what I really enjoyed. And by that point, I kind of knew that I wanted to pursue medicine and that I really liked doing science. And so I decided to take AP science courses and AP statistics because that is very important. It's a very important STEM class. And so I tailored my schedule solely to my interests, but also keeping in mind that I shouldn't, uh, you know, not challenge myself because I was scared of my GPA dropping or things like that. I think it's always important to take classes you enjoy and also, challenge yourself in the process.
Yeah, and I think that's a very tricky part, right? How do you keep a
Mm-hmm.
balance between challenging yourself and make sure your grades are not affected, right? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
is something an individual can only make that decision, right? And nobody can
Right.
actually decide on your behalf because you are the one
Right.
who understands yourself more than anybody else.
Right. And I think that there's kind of an unspoken rule that you have to take a certain number of AP
Yeah.
classes. And I personally don't think that's a very healthy way of thinking about it because to me, that seems more of peer pressure rather than doing what you know is best for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that's another thing that really comes into play during your junior and senior years that everyone kind of has an opinion about what is the right way to go about things. And I think that there's no set of rules that you can really apply. I definitely think that if you have colleges in mind that you want to get into, you should tailor, your course selection and difficulty to that because ultimately that is the goal you're trying to achieve. But if you don't, then I think that you know what is best for yourself, you know what you can handle. And at the end of the day, if you take 5 APs and don't do well in any of them, that is going to negatively impact your college admissions way more severely than if you took fewer classes and did what much better in them. So I think that that is where the balance really comes in. And I would say that if you were to prioritize challenging yourself versus, I think I shouldn't say prioritize, but I think if you are just trying to decide what is enough of a challenge to you, just kind of step back and think about, how's your time management? How do you, what kind of a student are you? What kinds of classes would be best for your needs? And then tailor your schedule to those kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely. That's very much required. So if you don't mind me asking, do you remember how many AP and honors you took?
So in my junior year, I took 3 AP classes. I took AP biology, AP statistics, and AP calculus. And then my senior year, I also took 3 APs. I took AP Chem, AP Computer Science, and AP Gov, AP Gov and Econ. And then my sophomore year, I took AP Euro, and then I was in the honors math program as well.
All right, and so that's like quite a bit.
I'm sorry, your voice kind of broke up there.
Oh, I said that's quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, since now you are in the college, and if you retrospectively look at it,
Hmm.
I mean, do you think you could have eased out on your course selection and maybe you kind of, really worked hard and you could have said that, oh, maybe I could have taken less AP and still I would have reached here. Where am I today? Or do you think that those APs and honors really added the value to make you reach where you are today?
Definitely, yes. I think that especially um, in the UC system, the as far as my experience goes, the level of um, kind of the level of knowledge and the work ethic that you have to have or that they expect you to have is very, very high. And so I think that by taking AP courses in high school, it really improved my work ethic and it made me a better student. And it not only made me more academically prepared for college courses, but it also made me figure out how to manage my time, what study methods work best for me, and it helped me understand myself as a student so that going into college I kind of knew, how I was going to tackle that new challenge, but I also had a lot of background knowledge from taking those AP
Okay,
courses that I feel that it really helped me ease the transition.
okay. Yeah, that's good to know. All right. Um, so, like since we are talking about the college, did you, I'm guessing you kind of understood what you want to do during your junior year, right? You had a good
Mhm.
clarity on
Mhm.
what you want to do. So tell me something,
Mhm.
on an average, I mean, you must have been talking to your peers and friends.
Mhm.
Do you think junior year is the year where most of the students get clarity on what they want to do?
I don't necessarily think that there's a specific year in high school where people kind of realize what they want to do.
Okay.
I think it's more that they're kind of, I feel like people think that they're forced to decide what they want to do before they apply for college, which in some ways, I think you obviously have to have an idea of the things that you're interested in. But at
Yes.
the same time, it's like I don't think that a lot of my friends 100%
Mhm.
knew what they wanted to do when they were applying to college. I think that people knew what they were interested in, that they knew that they were interested in computer science or statistics or biology or, the arts. They knew that they had interest in those fields, but I wouldn't say that a overwhelming majority of people knew exactly what they wanted to do. And that's a huge burden to place on a 17-year-old who we have not had any life experiences to make us sure that we want to spend the rest of our lives doing something. And so I think I wouldn't put that pressure on yourself to figure out like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life because it's not really necessary. And I think that that is what college is for. I think that college you're able to tailor your classes to your interests and really figure out what you want to pursue. But as far as deciding what you want to do in high school, I think the more important part is deciding what you like and what you don't like. And so that when you're applying to college, you can kind of,
Yeah,
figure out which programs you enjoy and things like
correct.
that. But I don't think there should be a pressure of figuring out exactly what you want to do because, again, that's a huge burden to place on someone who has not really experienced life at all
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. No, and that's so true. Like, this is how you filter, right? First,
Mm-hmm.
filter what you like, what you don't like. Once you filter that, then you see what are the opportunities in those
Mm-hmm.
subjects. And then I guess my next question is going to be in alignment with that is, how did you shortlist your college?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How did you shortlist your college? Any tool, mentor, guide, or career counselor that you used?
So I actually did not um, have a college counselor. I kind of just worked with my parents, to be very honest. I kind of like I knew that I had certain priorities, which included I wanted them to have a good like a pre-med program because that was what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to stay on the West Coast.
Okay.
I did not I do not enjoy the cold. I did not want to move across the country. I'm very close with my family, so that was definitely not something that I wanted to do at all. And I knew that I was kind of aiming to just stay within the UC system because I feel like they offer so much flexibility and I have so many friends that also kind of had that same plan, that I just thought that it would, be nice to kind of stay within the system. And if I wanted to, I have the flexibility to transfer and things like that. And the UC system is really a world class education. And, my mom also went to UC Davis for, her master's. And so I kind of was familiar with it already. And so I kind of had my list of priorities, and that's how I made my list of where I wanted to apply. Like I said, I did not want to go on the East Coast, so I didn't even look into that at all, because I knew that even if I got in, I wouldn't go, so I didn't want to waste my time applying. But I had specific priorities, and then I just kind of looked into which schools had the best programs, and that's how I kind of figured out where ideally I would like to go.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So, I mean, we spoke a lot about curriculum and all, but I keep hearing
Mhm.
that, hey, academic is not enough. What you need is an extracurricular activities which can give an X factor to any student.
Mhm.
What's your thought on it? And did you do anything in addition to your academic?
Yeah, so I have been playing basketball since like first grade, and so that has been a huge part of my life, since I was very little. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I think that that played a huge role in my college admissions, because I don't really think that one of the things that they were looking for was that they wanted a basketball player or anything like that. Like, I don't really think that's how they do it, but it was more just that was an activity that I enjoyed and that I wanted to continue. And it was a very important part of my high school experience, just for the simple fact that it relieved so much stress, and it was an outlet for me, for the longest time. But I think when it comes to more academically focused extracurriculars, you can't just do things because you want to show them on your college applications. I think that not only are you doing yourself a disservice, but I think that colleges can pretty much tell if you are not really interested in something. And something that one of my um, friends, or one of my older friends told me, was that if you are passionate about an extracurricular activity that you're doing, then you should be able to write a college essay about it. Like, you should be able to talk about it. You should be able to tell people about why you love it so much. And so if you're doing something and you just cannot seem to talk about your passion for it, then that might not be the right um, activity for you. But as far as my personal extracurriculars went, I did apply for some research internships for my junior year of high school, or the summer after my junior year of high school. I also shadowed some doctors when I was kind of deciding, like, or solidifying that that was what I wanted to do. Um, and yeah, that's kind of all that I did as far as extracurricular school. Like, I did dance and things like that, which I enjoyed doing, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I considered those to be the most important parts of my application.
Okay, great. So, I mean, you bring up a very good point of internship, and I know it's not very easy to get internship in during your
Mm-hmm.
high school period, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what advice do you have for the students on how to apply for the internship? Is there a method? I mean, I myself don't know how to do that.
I think that it is definitely not easy to find internships. And I think it's for the simple fact that, as high schoolers, you don't have any experience. You don't really have any qualities that a company or a lab or like a firm or anywhere would really want you to be working there. Like, you're not very like desirable to them.
You're not skilled enough
They
to be there.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think that the important part is I would say start looking early because you don't want to be scrambling during your junior year of high school where you already have 100 other things going on. I would say start looking early and looking into things that you're interested in. If you're doing what I did and you're trying to find research, just relentlessly email professors, email, you know, um, lab managers, email anyone you can at like any university, any company, pester them because that really kind of shows that this is what you want to do, you're interested in it. I would say if you're applying to work somewhere, do some research on what they do so that you can show your interest when you're reaching out, attach a resume, and you just kind of have to be relentless about it because professors, to be honest, like they don't really have the time to go through hundreds and hundreds of emails and they might miss it, they might never reply. So just be relentless, start early, and so that you have a head start and you're not scrambling to do something last minute, which is super, super stressful.
I know. So is it like you just did like some Google search or maybe in LinkedIn, you just looked around and found and then started contacting them? Is that the approach you took?
So basically, what I did was I knew that I wanted to work at a lab. And my mom actually works at Stanford. So she would tell me, just email whoever you want. Like she was just always telling me that there's so many high schoolers that work, around campus that she always saw. So she said, just go online, just look up professors in whatever fields you're interested in interning in and just email them, talk about why you're interested in working in their lab, attach a resume and hope for the best. And you just kind of have to find a lot of professors that you would be interested in working under, or I'm talking about it in more of a research setting, but this can really be applied to any internship. And just kind of Google search pretty much people that you would be interested in working with and just email them, their assistant or their lab manager, whatever. And eventually, hopefully, someone will get back to you. But another good option is also applying to programs which are harder to get into. They always have a limited number of seats, but it's always worth a shot.
Yeah, it's always like unless and until you don't approach, you won't get see the result.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is like really a very important tips for the students,
Mm-hmm.
to really succeed in what they are doing. And that kind of also helps you to validate whatever is your interest. Is this something you would really like to do it in the future,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get a taste of it, and then maybe that will motivate you further as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that, getting hands-on experience is really the only way you can kind of figure out if you really want to pursue something for your career.
Yes.
And I think that, any opportunity that you can get, you should just go for it because, like I was saying earlier, we are so young, we have not experienced a lot in life yet. So I think that any time that you have to gain some knowledge and some perspective, you should definitely, leap at that opportunity. And definitely, I think one of my top, suggestions is to start looking for those things early because you don't want to be in a situation where you're really desperately looking for an internship, and that's a whole very stressful process. So I definitely think that anytime you have that opportunity to get some hands-on experience, you should just go for it.
Yes, absolutely. So my last question,
Mm-hmm.
if I ask you, what is one thing you should have, you could have got that would have made your journey easier, than what that
Mm-hmm.
would be?
I think that the one thing that I wish I had done differently is I think in the first like 2 years of high school, you kind of think that you have time until you have to start thinking about,
Mhm.
your GPA in college and things like that. But I think that I wish I would have taken those first 2 years more seriously because I think that, like you had mentioned earlier, those are really the foundational years. You
Yeah.
know, before you really have the freedom to kind of pick and choose your classes and things like that, you kind of really have to solidify your grades, your study methods, your time management. All of that really, I think, happens in like your first 2 years, and you really have to have a grasp of those things in those 2 years before you move on to your junior and senior year, because that's when things start to really pick up the pace and get a lot tougher. And so I think that definitely really focus on getting your study routine down, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't in those first 2 years, really prioritizing, you know, exploring all of the different things you can do in high school, like the clubs you can join, the sports you can play, you try out for the musical, and just, explore your options, but at the same time, really zero in on who you are as a student and perfect those things so that moving forward, you don't have to pick up this slack from those 2 years, if that makes sense. Like if you're already solidified in what you know works for you, then you're set moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. But my question was, I mean, this is really, really good information, but my question was like, from support perspective, like, do you think a counselor from the college would have given you an insight that, you know what, these are your years and you better do it? Because what you did was, I guess, you voluntarily went out, spoke to a lot of people, they confused you more, rather have a structure in place where the students are coached well. Do you think,
Mm-hmm.
or kind of would have given you some kind of insight, um, or any such kind of a support where you are trying to make a decision, but you don't have anybody except your parent and your friends, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they are not, I don't think they are like very skilled to do that, but maybe
Yeah.
you should have something in place, or maybe they should have some kind of program in place where the students are coached that what does this mean, and and you have somebody to share their experience, or maybe some tool online things where you can read and you can fetch some information out there so that you know what you are signing up for, because that's what I have seen. Kids don't even know what they are signing up for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being an immigrant, we kind of do not, I like the parents of the immigrant do not even give the kids the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, yeah, maybe, may not be, yeah, try this, try that. So do you think there should be something in place that could have helped students like you? And I'm sure there are more and more students who are more confused than you.
I definitely don't think that, it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's really necessary to have someone coaching you from the very start, because I think that that kind of takes away from the whole experience of high school and kind of figuring out what you're interested in. I definitely think maybe having someone to guide you from for your junior and senior year is helpful, because those are the years where you're making the tough decisions when it comes to standardized testing and classes and things like that. But I think, my advice for going into high school is talk to someone who, like a student who, you trust, and B, is kind of has the same interest as you, or kind of went down a similar path to what you envision yourself doing, and kind of get one person or a few people's advice who are kind of doing the same things as you are. I definitely don't think asking 100 people is a good idea, because everyone has a different opinion. But I think, asking a few trusted friends who have done the same thing as you to kind of shape your first 2 years. And then if you feel it's necessary in your junior year to get someone to talk to kind of help you through the next 2 years into your college applications, I think would be helpful.
Okay, great. So what you are saying is more than guidance, it's more educate and aware, make yourself aware. what is
Yes.
happening, what may happen, and what has happened with the people like you. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
totally sounds good. I think that's all from my side. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't, but thank you for having me.
No, that thanks for coming, on podcast with me. It's really gonna be helpful to the students, who are gonna enter into this journey or already there. I'm guessing they are really looking out. Not everybody has friends of their own interest, and that's what we are
Mm-hmm.
trying to target so that we can bring in students from all different fields so that they can
Mm-hmm.
share their experience and people can just learn from the best practices and apply for their own benefit.
Yeah, and definitely, if anyone is kind of on the pre-med track or,
Mm-hmm.
has some specifically pre-med questions and things like that, feel free to reach out and ask me
Yeah,
questions, and I will help to the best of my ability, because I know how it feels to kind of just be lost, and
I know.
everyone's doing something and
Uh-huh.
something different. You don't know what's right for you. You don't
Correct.
want to regret making certain decisions. So definitely, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. I would be happy to help.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Mira, and all the best for your future years. And hopefully, I'll see you soon as a doctor.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
All right, great. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.